Hi guys. Today, I think that should be hopefully this day my last video, probably more, but at least before the launch. I'm pretty sure that this week we'll launch the website. I mean, it's just not like some website is supported by investors and then the big names, big titles, and I was just myself. But I set a milestone for myself. So this week is gonna be the week. But anyway, last time we talked about how to keep the adaptivity instead of try to optimize it out of your diversity. I mentioned that diversity is part of human nature. It's not just you have to manufacture it. You have to make it. It's already there. It's already inside us. It's already with everybody. So that's why diversity exists among people, but also within each individual. It's always diversity because we have different sides. Just think about how many cells in a human body, right? There are like billions, a trillions cells. So there's got to be difference, got to be some varieties. Um, One thing that I talk about that, with the, for uh, keeping variety, one important function is that we can have adaptivity, right? But not only that, we have to fight kind of a game in the system. Basically, like everything is possible. I will try to fit into Harvard profile, or Princeton profile, or Yale profile, whatever, right? So you are basically dropping your own important varieties, differences, just to fit yourself in one school. So that's not the way to do it. The best way to do it is to keep being yourself. The best way is to be faithful to yourself. That's what is important, because you don't lie to yourself. You just say that just because I'm applying for college does not mean I have to give up some part of me. That's not the way to do it. So that's one thing. Another thing, another dimension related to diversity is that we have to think about the intentional achievement versus a serendipity achievement. Serendipity is basically by chance, right? Remember that how the peninsula is discovered. The Dr. Fleming accidentally found some models killed by some culture. So that's how this peninsula is discovered. So that's very real, because in reality, we often not always frequent, but sometimes we get into discovery by chance. We get into achievement by chance. Okay, so that means that if you keep everything, open, you there's no fixed script. It's open ended. It's unpredicted. It's basically chaotic, right? Because you cannot predict something accurately. Otherwise, that's not a serendipity. That's by planning, right? So we have to, when we talk about the serendipity achievement, we mean that we keep it open minded. And then sometimes we know, sometimes achievement is by planning, but other times achievement is by accident. That's why we keep an open minded to it, and that's why by the same token, we keep ourselves open. Sometimes, we understand we have a problem, we have a weakness, but suddenly, if we someday we suddenly recognize that the root of the problem is this, it's a lack of confidence, it's a sense of insecurity, and then that's achievement. Why? Because recognize your problem is one important way towards solving it. So all this kind of thing, we keep it open-minded, we keep the serendipity. So that's where we can do a better job. Uh, and then so, again, once again, to keep the diversity, we um, we keep it like just like last time, you know, we're thinking about that stepping on the napkins on your shoes. Is that why is that achievement? Because you help the others to solve a little embarrassing problem, right? So this kind of thing, there, all we have to keep it open-minded. So not everything recognized, not every achievement is achieved by planning. So that's the thing I think I'm gonna stop here.